Hello everyone and welcome to the Digg podcast. I am super excited to be bringing you some of the most inspirational guests over the next few weeks and months. I always try to speak to people who are making a difference in business and in life. The two definitely can't be separated. I know that more than anyone. So I hope when you're listening, you get inspiration both in your business life and in your personal life to make changes for the better. That's why I made the Digg podcast. So hello everyone and welcome to the Digg podcast. So today I have my friend and colleague and sometimes mentor and all around good guy, Mark from Glaze Digital. Mark owns a specialist digital marketing, web design and Shopify boutique, which is Glaze Digital. And some of you might be very familiar with Glaze Digital. Him and his partner co-founded that in 2014. And they've worked on a lot of projects. A lot of businesses that I've mentored as well have actually had their websites designed by Glaze Digital, but they have clients all over really UK, Ireland and the Middle East, and they've worked with some top companies over the years. And you know, whenever it was first established, I was reading up all about Glaze Digital before we come on the podcast. I obviously know Mark and what they do, but the background behind why they started, I learned something and I was like, God, that's exactly what I love to hear. They when they established it, they wanted to create a business that could work with big companies, family companies, startups, and do it all under the same roof, but always have a commitment that, you know, instead of overcharging clients for their services, that for things that they don't need, which is like my pet hate, that they would take the time to understand what a client needs and, you know, and the problems that they have and serve up solutions. So that's exactly what you want to hear as a business owner. You don't want to be ripped off and you want the problem solved. So whenever I read that today, I was like, happy days. This is why I've worked with Mark in the past. And then, you know, as part of their business evolving, they have actually launched another company in 2020, which is Chorus Commerce. And it is a dedicated Shopify agency that helps businesses create and grow their Shopify stores. So obviously that's like a big passion of mine as well because of my experience with using Shopify. So I really wanted to have Mark on the podcast today because my podcast, I want it to be one of learning, and I want people to take away things and say, right, I know how to do this after I've listened to the podcast. And Mark has presented for me before at some conferences, and he always gives great tips and for business owners to take away and put into practice straight away. So that's why I wanted Mark here. So Mark, welcome to the Digg podcast.
Hi Caroline, how are you?
I'm good. And you're not even living in this country anymore?
No, I moved to Amsterdam there about 3 weeks ago, so I'm in a more sunnier place, but still working remotely with all our clients, and everything seems to be going well so far. But yeah, it's a bit of a difference, a bit more open up here than it is in Northern Ireland. But I thought I'd try a different place for a while and live somewhere else, so why not?
And it's amazing because you and I have been in touch, and it's been no different than you still being in Belfast. So it's actually fantastic. You're getting a new life experience, but still being able to give everything your clients need or, you know, to them. So fair play to you.
It's something that we like decided last January, actually, before the COVID happened. In January, we actually shut our offices in Belfast and told the team if they wanted to go fully remote, we'd give them all the equipment, all the tools that they need. And we actually went fully remote in January, and then the COVID crisis sort of hit in February, March, and we were already prepared. So we'd already set the company up to be fully remote. And it's something we wanted to have, was the ability where staff could sort of work their own hours and work from wherever they wanted to. Because I think by having the sort of business we have, it makes sense. It's not that they need to be tied down by a desk. So yeah, it's definitely been something which has been really interesting to see how that's worked from working remotely instead of being with face to face with people.
It's amazing, and you know, there's no longer having to wait to meet up with somebody anymore. You just write that email, send that WhatsApp.
And like one thing I'm finding is I'm doing a huge amount more of mini screen share videos. So explaining something, so instead of me going in and touching and showing and pointing, I'll just make a quick video with my face in the corner saying, hey, this is how you do this is how you do it. And I think people really appreciate that instead of sort of just writing them an email. By just making it a bit more personal, I think they take that into consideration. It's something they can then look back with. So it's like building a wee mini library for each of the clients around like tips, tricks, or how to do something in Shopify and other things. So it's worked really well for us.
Yeah, that's what one of the things you did for me was Digg Mama. I remember ringing you stressed out one morning thinking I'm never going to get launched. I've done this wrong. And you literally just done a video with your voice and pointing to the right things, and boom, in 5 minutes, my drama of the century was fixed, and all with just a video. So that does work really well. But Mark, I just want to kind of launch straight in, because I know people are listening. They're like, just flipping, tell us what we need to do here to get this show on the road. So how many, like I've written just to give people a wee overview at the start. Maybe people are listening don't even know what Shopify is. So if you could just tell us what is Shopify, and what are the statistics at the minute, like how many businesses are using it, and why do people choose Shopify over like WooCommerce or any other kind of e-commerce platform?
Yeah, so Shopify is an e-commerce platform that's it's hosted for you. It's designed for something where anyone can actually go on, sign up. Within about a few hours of time, you can actually set up your own website, add your own products, add your own collections, which are like categories, add your bank details, and start taking payment. The reason Shopify has been so successful and what it's done is it's tried to take the pain points out of this sort of process. In the past, you used to have to pay for hosting. You'd have to then set up a server. You'd have to then add your platform like Magento or WordPress, and then you'd have to then add your products, but you'd have to then go and get like a payment provider like Stripe and then get approved, or PayPal. With Shopify, you just can do it really quickly. What I would say is that Shopify isn't for everyone. So that's one thing that I would be very clear, is that if you've got a really complicated product process, or you want to link in with a really large system, or you're at a certain size where you feel that you need to have that full-time infrastructure, there's other platforms that are out there. Shopify is designed for those small to medium businesses to get set up and online and running, and being able to focus on what they want to do and take the pain points away. So you can focus on selling, putting up Instagram posts, putting out blog posts, but you're not focusing on thinking that your site's going to crash and go down, or you're not focusing on making sure your site's not secure. Around the world, Shopify's in about 175 countries. They've done over 1 million stores. And during the COVID crisis, they've actually brought out, there's been another 400,000 stores were created during COVID for businesses that maybe were full-time retail and wanted to then move into this online space. Some of the clients that are on Shopify that you may know of are people like Kylie Jenner, Kanye West, Tesla, Gymshark. So they've got that sort of range of those small to medium-sized businesses, but then they also can allow you to scale up to international multi-million pound a day businesses. So it's a really good system to have as a starting point to grow your online.
So I actually listened to a podcast with the guy that's founded Shopify. He was talking to Gary Vee, and I know Gary Vee is either love hate, but he said that he wanted it to be for the layman to get started, to get his feet off the ground, to get running without all those massive overheads and those massive costs and those massive worries. And also, when you were saying there, I'd already heard it straight from the horse's mouth that this is who it was for. So that's why I always, obviously based on the product, like you say, but I would speak to businesses and say that I think it's a brilliant platform for like the beginner at the beginning anyway, to get going. You can navigate it yourself. But like I know that there's people listening, right, Mark? And I know what they're thinking straight away. How much is this going to cost me? Like before people even consider what it's going to do for their business, you're consumed by the price. And I know that, and that is only natural because you're afraid of how much money you're going to have to lash out. So sometimes when you speak to people like you, in inverted commas, they're very cagey about how much this is going to cost. And sometimes I'm like, just tell me how much it's going to be. So do you have I know every business is different depending on how many products they have and what they do, but is there like a starting price for Shopify that people could have in their head as a ballpark figure?
Yeah. So the way we would look at it is we've sort of got two pricing models, and we sort of built this over the COVID time because we've had two different types of companies. The way we look at it is it's based on the number of days that we take. And we've had clients who have wanted to go for a higher package because they thought they needed it, and we've actually given them the smaller package and it's done exactly what they wanted. Our starting cost for Shopify is around 3.5K, depending on the project. That's the rough cost. So the way we look at that is 10 days of our time to build the store, set it up. Usually with that one, we're using like a base theme and we customize it. So we'll actually take something where it's a theme, customize it to your liking. it's not the case that we always need to build from scratch. So the only time that we would start building from scratch would be where we're sort of building out a new store for someone and they want specific custom functionality, or they know that they need to have a certain feature that isn't standard in a theme. That's when we go custom. What we'd usually say is we would be trying to get someone to keep their budget as tight as possible so that they can get a store that starts generating some revenue. And then we can go down the custom theme route, and we know then what to do with it. So we know that, okay, all your customers want to be seen as a complete deluxe section. Well, we'll build that for you, but we'll do it. We want you to first trial and error to test the market. And we don't want to sort of put our hands in your pocket. So yeah, so we look at it about 3.5K, which is then 10 days of our time at 350 plus VAT. And we'll set up your shipping, your payment gateways, your tax, and we'll guide you. And one of the things I think a lot of people would say when working with us is like, it's not just about us setting up the store, it's just guiding you and thinking of like the navigation, the categories, how you should do that, thinking of the products and how you should set them up, and just trying to give you a better all-around experience, that you have this package that gives you enough to get online, sell across Facebook and Instagram, and start generating some revenue very quickly.
Okay, so that's good for people to know that. And then obviously there's a lot of support out there at the minute, grants and, things from Council and Invest NI and Intertrade Ireland, and they've all got things going on to help with this. So if that figure is, you're thinking in your head, whoa, I didn't think it was going to be that much, or maybe you thought it was going to be more, whatever it may be, there is help out there. So I guess everyone should kind of source that before they would speak to you to see what they're kind of entitled to.
Yeah, of course.
And what are the costs? Here you're probably thinking, flip me, you're asking me all about the money, but what are the costs after? So you leave us and we have our website. Mm-hmm. What are the running costs of a website then, a Shopify website?
Yeah, so basically the way Shopify do it is they have 3 plans. They've got the basic, the standard, and advanced. And the real difference between the plans at this exact moment is the credit card fee and the number of staff users. So the standard Shopify for the basic one is $29, and that gets you a 2.2% plus 20p. The $79, which is the one that most people go on to, gets you 5 staff members instead of 2, and it's $79. And then the advanced one is $299. Now the difference with it is it's more for when you're starting to get more staff, so 15 staff members, and the rate goes down to 1.6 plus 20p. So the real, what we would say is like, we would have plans that would stay on the middle package, and then when it gets really busy and they're doing like a sale, you can go up and down. So you're not stuck into a yearly contract. You can go month to month. So we'd have plans that go down to $29 for 3 months when they're quiet, just to save as much money as they can, because they know they're not generating anything. And then when they're busy, they can bump it up a bit. So it's all based on use. And one thing I would say is that there is certain things that I would recommend you add on as part of that. So the Shopify has an app store. So these apps could be things like filtering, it could be upselling, it could be abandoned cart things, it could be complete the look. So there's different apps that we would recommend adding on to a store. So I would always say, depending on your store, to set aside about $50 to $60, and that would then cover you for those apps. So for example, if you're going for the middle package of $79 plus then $60, you're talking about $130 all in. So about £99 a month to have your store set up and running. If you do need sort of support, you can do we do a retainer package, but it's something where a lot of people can just actually run it themselves, and we'll just guide them a wee bit from here to there. But yeah, it's definitely one of those systems that's more of a hands-off system where you can actually manage it and run it yourself. And I always say this to people, that the amount of time that you put into something is what you'll get back. So if you set up your Shopify store and you don't think about checking it every day and you only spend an hour a week on it, you're not going to get any return on that because you're not putting in the time. But we need you to put that time in for you to get the most out of the store that we give you. We can give you all the tools in the world, but if you don't actually put the effort into to make it your own, that's where it'll fall down.
Yeah, so I know you know my story, but that's what happened to me. I got a Shopify site and I thought it was just going to sales were going to flow in because it looked deadly and I had all the top brands. But oh my God, Mark, I got some shock. I never got a sale for weeks. And so then I had to start, pull myself together and treating it like it was a new business. And that's exactly what it is. And I think that's a problem. Business owners maybe set it up and don't see it as their opening shop number 2. And that's exactly what you're doing.
It's completely true. Like the way that I would say it is, I always say for companies to set aside inventory that you've online and you've in store, and then you can track what your actual sales are doing. And the main thing with that people I think get confused when they set up something like a Shopify store is that your audience for that first 3 or 4 months is the audience that you've previously built. Okay, so it's not going to be an audience of new people. It's the same people that would have came in store. It's the same people that follow you on Facebook and Instagram, or that get your emails, or that have phoned up your store and asked about an order, and you say, go visit the website, you can order online. It's not going to be new customers. And that's something that people need to understand, is that that first few months is always going to be about that, your local audience that you had before buying online. Then once you start building out a product range, you'll then start searching. You'll then start appearing in Google search. You'll start appearing more in different places because the site grows. There's a really technical thing for domain called the domain authority. And I don't want to go into too much detail on this, Caroline, because it can bore everyone. But basically every domain has what's called a DA, a domain authority. And what your goal is to improve your domain authority. And the way you do that is by getting things like links, is by having good content, is by having good product photography. And as your site grows and grows and grows, it'll rank better in Google. And the more it ranks in Google, the more organic search you get. So it's one of these sort of chicken and egg situations. But one thing is that you're not just going to take off overnight, unless you have some special viral sensation, which is 1 out of 1,000. It's going to be the case that it is a long, hard slog, but by putting in that extra effort at the start, you'll have a better foundation to build on going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I can vouch for every single thing that Mark's just said. And this podcast isn't about my experience with Shopify. It's about Mark teaching us the right way and the proper way. But I've been through everything he's talked about. So, and I've talked about it on my socials, and I'm there if anybody wants to reach out on social about that. But for now, we want to learn the gold standard, the proper way. So our site is built. We've paid you money. Yep. We're ready to start trading. So what key points must clients be aware of when they're listing their products and services? Like, you've touched on it a wee bit there, but what's the gold standard of listing a product, Mark, so that you're going to be found eventually on Google?
So before we'd actually list the product, I think the main thing that I'd actually focus on is the navigation. And the reason that I tell people to focus on the navigation is because if you don't have a clear navigation, no one knows how to get to the product. So if they can't get to the product, we need to think of how they can get to the product. The way I explain people how to build their navigation is 2 things. One is to copy a bigger company that you like and take bits of it that you think work. So Oliver Bonus is a very good example for homeware. If you look at ASOS, you can get some examples of how they've done certain things. And the second way that I tell people to do it is, if they have a retail store, is to walk around it. So on the left, we have coats. We've then got jackets. We've then got jumpers. We've then got sweaters. We've then got dresses. We've then got jeans. And those are then your categories. And then once you go in and go down into further, you could have winter coats, summer coats, you could have leather jackets, you could have fur, whatever it is, you then start building out your subcategories. But that is the most important thing. And I think a lot of people don't realize that one product can go into multiple categories. So for example, a coat could go in, a coat that is by, let's say, a brand, I don't know, can't think of a brand.
Tommy Hilfiger.
But let's say Tommy Hilfiger. There you go. So we've got Tommy Hilfiger coat. Okay, so that goes into coats, but it could also go into long coats. It'll also go into a price bracket of, let's say, 100 to 150 pounds, so people can search by price. It'll also go in by brand for Tommy Hilfiger, and it could also go in by winter to winter coats. It could also go in then, if you really wanted to go further into, let's say it's a male coat, it could go into Father's Day gifts. It could go into Christmas gifts, it could go into birthday. So all of a sudden, this one product of a Tommy Hilfiger coat has turned into a 13 category listing. And by doing that, you're basically giving the customer more ways of finding your products. And the main thing that I'd say is, by getting that navigation step right at the start, then you can then start working into the products. But until you do that, people will just get lost and don't know where to go. And if they don't know where to go, they'll never get to your products.
Yeah, and I guess I skipped on there. That was one of my questions. What makes a great looking Shopify site? So navigation would definitely be that kind of thing you're talking about.
Yeah, and things like having like a new in section that's always updated, that your customers who always are coming back and quickly click on new in, go through and see the latest products so they can choose. But once you've sort of got into that and you've got your navigation done, the main thing that we want to do once we're on a product page is it's all in the details. So it's a clear title. So in the title, we want to include the brand name. We want to include the product. We want to include if it's a color. If it's a product that is like a liquid, we want to include the mils. So people don't know whether it's a 500 ml, a 250 or 1 liter. We want to include that so that they can get it, because the photo won't be justified enough to show, because it's going to be quite small on the screen. Once you've done the title, it's then the description. The main thing that we find is that the description isn't enough detail. A lot of people put up a coat like let's say the Tommy Hilfiger coat, for example, and we'll have Tommy Hilfiger coat available in size small, medium, large. They have not given any information about the materials, about the use case, about if it's waterproof, if it's wind resistant. By having all of that sort of information, you can gather so much more of an audience, and you'll also rank better because Google will see all that content, go, oh shit, this code makes sense. This code has a lot of detail. We would usually say that you have at least 4 to 5 lines of text per product. And I would be of the mindset that it's better to have less products with better laid out products than to have more products with nothing, because by having nothing, you're going to catch a lot less of an audience. So that's where I would say would be your 2 main things, is your product and your description. The next thing is the photo. And this is the one that's really hard. And I'm sure, Caroline, you've been there since you've had the Digg store. Taking photos isn't easy. Deciding what way to take photos isn't easy. And getting good quality photos isn't easy. I always say that the best way of doing a photo is what I call a flat lay, or a Michael flat lay, as I joke about it. So it's literally putting the item on the ground, and you stand 3 or 4 feet up and you take a wide shot of it on a white background. The simplest way of doing it. If you want to go down the route of doing models, you can. Victoria Beckham's site would be the best example of photography online at the moment. It's really good in how she's done it, how she's thought about the photography, and how she's focused on the product. But honestly, that simplified photo of a clear, crisp photo that isn't pixelated is worth so much more than just taking your time. It's worth taking your time to do that rather than just rush it and try and do 15 in one day, because the 5 photos will sell. I don't want to continue too much on this, but the reason why this is so important is because there's this idea that I'll talk about a bit more later of if you walk into a retail store, you have what's called a warm open. So it's a warm greeting. Oh, it's cold outside. Or you've got a talking point, the weather's good, or you maybe know the customer already. And that warm intro will warm them up in feeling completely secure and understanding and trusting you as a business, because they've walked through the door, they can get a feel, and you get to actually talk to them. In a website, you have a cold open. You have this idea where they come to the store and all they're doing is looking at your brand as, who are they? Who have they got? Should I trust them? What's the things that are going to make me trust them? And photography is one of the things that can make you stand out. And the thing is, people do compare. So if you're comparing to Zara, to Next, to Marks and Spencer's, to ASOS, you have to be that you're compared alongside them, and your photography has to match that.
Oh, it's so hard for business owners, Mark, isn't it? Like, you're saying that, and I am feeling so bad right now for so many people because this is so hard. And, that's why I always say to business owners, this is you open your shop, you have now opened another shop, and you wouldn't open your bricks and mortar and not think about your window display and your, all of those. No. So it's the exact same, but it's just a new space, and you have to get your head out of the sand of that and think, right, do I need to invest in a photographer to come in to show me how to do it properly myself? Yeah. Is there any packages with photographers out there where they could come in once a month and blast out some product photos rather than you wrecking your head trying to do it? So it's about trying to make a plan, but realizing this is what's needed and, just going for it. And like you talked there about product descriptions, and you said 4 to 5 lines, and I always tell people 200 to 300 words. And, I fully believe that, because I believe if someone walked into your shop, you wouldn't just say, well, that coat's made of, now this is more from a retailer's perspective, you're the web designer or whatever, but I mean, I wouldn't say that coat's waterproof and it's got a gold zip, but I would say that would be beautiful with a crisp white shirt underneath it and jeans, a styling tip. So I always say to people, make yourself stand out and give a personality in your description, and then that's also keywords and extra content that Google will love. So everything you said, but on top of it, from a retail perspective, I think sell as much as you can to your customer in that description. You're completely correct.
And the other things I would recommend is, like, if it's size is small, say it's size is small. If it's size is large, say it's size is large. Yes. Don't try and expect the customer to look at a photo and go, oh yeah, I know that's on a 5'6" model. I know that's going to fit a small.
Give them everything that you have.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to do that because it is a cold open. So the more detail you give, the more likely you are to get them as a sale. The other thing it says, like, we've gone into customers' areas, like their stores, and we've said, okay, well, this is going to be your photo area, and we've marked out the floor like a 6-foot mark where we'll put an iPhone with a tripod, and we'll have a white wall, and we've said, right, that's your marker. That's where you always take the photos. They're always the same center. They're always the same alignment. And just even things like that of making sure your photos are consistent in size. It'll just make your store just that little bit more professional and stand out. And it definitely is worth it in the long run.
So I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors of the podcast, and that is B&L Productions. I have been so busy over the past few years, and when I've needed to make digital things happen, it's B&L Productions that I have always put my trust in. Like, I think of these guys as a one-stop shop for all things events, live and film. The team have worked with me on so many things, the social media content when I owned my shop. They provided everything, like from scripting, casting, storyboards, multitude of cameras, lighting, sound, editing, all the things that as a business owner aren't my expertise. And they also supported us in the Northern Ireland Social Media Awards that I'm the co-founder of. Like, that night took my breath away. The lights, the PA, the camera feeds, the huge LED wall, I will never forget it. Like, if it's a live streaming conferences for your work or whatever your project is, like, they bring all the kit, the microphones, the screens, they produce high-end TV ads, custom animations. They sort everything out in a hassle-free way. And like, I've called them up with all my crazy ideas over the years, and you know what? No idea is too big or too small or too ambitious. That's what I've learnt about the team at B&L Productions. So if you are thinking of commissioning some new marketing videos or online content, I hand on heart recommend my friends at B&L Productions. I know they will look after you. So I just want to thank them for being the sponsor. In fact, they're even editing this podcast because that is not my expertise at all. So thanks a million, B&L. And if you want to check out their socials, it's B&L Productions, or visit their website at bnlproductions.co.uk.
Yes, and then bring us on ahead down then. So that's important. That's the description, the photo, and then we're getting down to like SEO at the bottom of when you're listing the products. So that's so important, and people just leave it out completely.
Yeah, so SEO is something which is a really complicated thing. It's not something that's going to happen overnight with any store. It's not something that any one person can tell you that they're going to change your store overnight by turning on SEO. SEO has multiple things. It's got a technical SEO, it's got on-page SEO, and it's got sort of your listing, which is called your SERP, your search engine ranking preview. And the thing is that Shopify is really well set up from an SEO point of view. So if you can add a good title, a good description, and copy that into the bottom part where it says SEO and shorten it down to be the right length, it can be a really good thing for you to have that as your starting point. One of the things I know you've always talked about, and it's really important, is your alt text and for your images. So for example, if you're uploading an image of, let's say, a pram, you don't just have an image.png or .jpeg, you have it pram, medium size, maxi kid, or whatever it is. And the alt text is also important there. So you want to be able to put in alt text of what that pram is. And those are the sort of things that can help make a store stand out. And then you're going to be putting in your price and your collections. And one of the things that I recommend people do in Shopify especially, which is a new feature, is put in the cost per item. So this is where you can actually put in the cost that it costs you. So for example, if you're selling something for £32 and it costs you 14, you can then start seeing the margin you're making. And the really good benefit of that is within the insights section of Shopify, we're then able to show you to say, here's the products that you make the most margin on that you're out of stock of all the time. So make sure you order more, or here's the products that you're making the most margin on or selling quickly. And those sort of things are really vital, because it saves you having to go through a spreadsheet of looking or talking to your accountant and saying which did so well, which didn't. It allows you to have those buying decisions that are so important in a business.
Yeah, the analytics side of things is amazing in Shopify. Like, it's literally a click of a button and you can print it all out, give it to your accountant. You can see how much money you made, like, and then compare it to the year before on that day without having to like flick through things. And so I like, it is a brilliant platform. But also, yes, that label in your pictures, guys, if you are listening, like, do not underestimate the power of that. Just to tell you a quick story, I've probably told Mark this before, but Tommy Hilfiger body warmer for boys, I was never ever going to to be number one in Google for that. All the big guys had their Google ads. All Tommy Hilfiger was number one, children's salon, all of that. But I was very particular about labeling every single product, and I labeled that Tommy Hilfiger boys body warmer properly. So Tommy Hilfiger boys body warmer, and then if there was three of them, Tommy Hilfiger navy body warmer, and I changed it up every time I uploaded those three pictures, and I was number one in Google images for Tommy Hilfiger boys body warmer, and every time it came back into stock, it sold out from traffic coming from Google. So that, I always say to people, I know it's hard work, I know it takes ages, but it is another way for people to find you. So do not leave that bit out. Just get into the habit of labeling everything properly from the very start, and then you'll always do it that way.
No, I completely agree. And the thing is you're a small fish in the big pond, and there's no other way of looking at it than that. So if you can do things that are going to make you be a bigger fish without having to put in a huge of extra cost or extra time, it's worth doing these things to set up this setup right. Because if you don't, you're just going to end up doing it in the next phase when you start generating or put money into paid ads, and then you notice that, oh, I haven't done this correctly, or I haven't done that correctly, or my photos aren't set up right. So it's important to try and get the basics right. My dad is a phrase of KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And I always tell people to follow that, the idea of just try and keep your products as simple, but keep them detailed, and don't go into too much detail and try and put too much in that you're over empowering that product, where it just takes away from what that is.
Yeah, and so if we went through all of that, our images, our description, our SEO, and our collections, and our pricing, and we're ready to rock. So how the hell do we get sales now? Like, how does anybody find our website? This is the problem. So what happens now?
Pray.
Cry. So I have never made it a secret. I cried a lot because I didn't get any flipping sales. And this is why I became so passionate about, because I invested everything and then just sitting there like someone, like a failure. And so it's, that's why I'm so keen to do things like this podcast, like this, to teach people. So tell us, how do we get over this hurdle of getting people to the website?
So I think there's a few things here. So there's a lot of people will tell you all about channels and how you should go on, like email, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, all those sort of things. And I think for me, it just depends on the business. So different businesses will require different sales channels. And I think what you want to do is you want to have Shopify as your hub, and then you want to use these other channels to be selling to it. And you want to do trial and error. Some of the best wins that we have had with clients is nothing to do with things like Facebook posts or Instagram posts. It's maybe a Facebook group where we're talking to a type of audience that's really consumer focused on car seats, or we're putting in a blog on a site around articles on the safety features of car seats in a Ford Focus. So it's coming in and looking at your product range and saying, okay, well, what can I talk about in this, and where can I talk about it? And it's a very crowded space. So what you have to try and do is differentiate yourself. And to do that, you have to look at what you can do to differentiate yourself. So what makes you different? Is it the way that you word the descriptions? Is it your photography? Is it that you can actually talk about this in more detail and do pairings, as you say? So come up with style guides and build out different lookbooks. There's a site that I really like called The Bureau. They're bureaubelfast.com. And they do, when they put up a product, they then show a photo of how that could be styled. And there's people that I know just phone up and say, I'll take that style. And that's their thing. Their thing is they'll put up the products for 2 weeks, and then they'll say, now the lookbook shots are up. And when those lookbook shots are up, the products just sell, because people are seeing it in situ. They're not seeing it in a white background. They're seeing it on a model. They're seeing it in how it could be fitted well with different outfits and different styles. So it's just about trying to stand out. There's no quick win to marketing. Okay, you can put money into advertising and you can try and make some money. I always say that you have to give anything that you try 2 months. So if you're going to do Facebook ads, you have to give it 2 months, because it takes that length of time for them to settle and to get sort of noticed and to get qualified. But it just depends on the business. One of the things that we're finding working really well is email. So by building up email marketing lists, we're finding that's doing a huge thing. But there isn't a quick win. I can't say every business can follow this one complete pattern. It'll work. The main thing is look for those other things. Look for Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, You could even build out like what I would call like a beta test user list. So if you've got a new store launching, you get 20 people who are your regular customers in your physical store and say, look, I'll give you 10% off if you come test my store and give me some feedback over what I can improve. And sometimes that's not even about the feedback. It's just that interaction with people to start the journey. If you said, okay, that's really good, it's really interesting. You said about my sizing, I used the word S, maybe I should use small. Maybe the small isn't a small, maybe it should be small, but it actually fits like a medium. So it's things like that. And that's how you can get started. And one thing I always find is that people are waiting for their first sale, where once they then get that sale, they then want the next one instead of thinking about why they got that sale. So they should be following up with that customer and saying, hey, thanks so much for supporting the local business. It's been really good. Your order's been ready. I'm about to send it out to you. Did you see anything else you liked in the store? Do you have any feedback? And I think for the first few months, it's all about that personal interaction, about trying to go the extra mile for those customers that you do get, because those are the ones that are going to then tell their friends that they had this phenomenal experience, or they bought this item and it came next day, or when they opened the envelope, it had an extra little personal message, or it had a little something as a wee gift that was inside it. And that's what's going to make the difference, because there's so many things of fast fashion, there's so many things of businesses where you're going to be competing against the big dogs, and you're not going to be able to afford to match them and how they do paid advertising, or how they do in ranking in Google, or how much marketing money that they bloody spend. But if you can make yours some way personal, or some touch that's going to make you that when someone opens it, they get that surprise and delight feeling, even if you only get 10 sales and those 10 sales have the best experience, they'll come back. They're not going to come back because they've had such a good experience. So it's just about getting that first one and then talking to them and then finding out how you can get the next one. There's no quick win, sadly.
No, there is no quick win. So just if anybody's listening, this is a process. It is not going to like at the time when I started my website, it was my daddy said to me, you need to get online, people are making a fortune and all. And I suppose everybody's laid down that path thinking they get a website, it's going to be deadly and you're going to be rolling it in. Like, it is hard work and it's a new space that we're not all familiar with. So you need to go easy on yourself, but you need to learn and you need to treat your online customer like you would treat the person that walks into your shop. They are no different. And another story, but I used to pay big bucks for my Digg children's wear bags, the bags that someone would get when they come into the shop, because it was a boutique and they were buying really expensive clothing, and I thought they deserved the best bag that was like nearly like a bag for life. And I used to see them about the place all the time because people reused them and they were beautiful and they cost me a fortune. But then when someone bought something online, I shoved it into like a wee grey like polythene bag and
DHL bag or something.
Yes, I had my wee compliment slip, but it was wrapped in tissue paper. But it was actually a staff member, Betta, that worked with me at the time, said, like, you spend so much money on these bags for your customer in the shop, and you just bomb it out to the people online like it doesn't matter. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. So you have to sort of, that's the same person sometimes as buying from you online as in store, so they deserve the same customer service. So everything you're saying is right. And like the question was, how do we get people there? And Mark, I know you're saying there's no quick fixes, but if I can jump in just to say, if they can embrace social, if they don't have the money for Facebook ads, like I never had money for Facebook ads because it required testing, and I just didn't have the money. So I threw myself into social, and that's what drove the traffic to my site. So if people are thinking, geez, I don't have the money for ads and stuff, don't despair. Embrace social and try to get people there that way. And then my next question was about the email marketing, as you said. So Klaviyo and MailChimp would be the two that I would be familiar with. Are they one? Is it those two that you would kind of recommend to your clients, and why one over the other?
Yeah, so I think email marketing is something which we've gone headfirst into for all of our clients that we're working with who we do marketing for. It's something where we've really, really thought about, well, why would we, what do we want to do with this experience? MailChimp is very much an email platform that we would use for clients who don't do it online. So it could be for a business and we're promoting a lift company. It could be for a company that we actually own part of called Part of Switch, which is a comparison website for energy. We would use MailChimp for that. The minute you want to go into e-marketing, as in e-commerce email marketing, Klaviyo is the way forward. So Klaviyo is a tool, and I describe it as MailChimp on steroids. And the reason I describe it like that is, the reason I describe it like that is just the amount of data that it gets back. So it integrates with your Shopify store. You can set up two things. You can set up campaigns, which is just like your standard emails that you send, and they're great. And you can also set up flows. And flows is something where you can really stand out in a crowded market. So we would set up a few flows for people. So we would do things like a thank you series. So a thank you series is like a personal message. And Klaviyo has these as templates where you can bring it in and you can start writing it, and then it'll write the rest, and you can change it to your wording. So it could be a photo of you and your family to show that it's a family-run business. It could be a team photo. If you've got 4 or 5 staff, you want to say, like, these are the people that are working with you. You can also update things like create flows around welcome series. So if you're doing, like, let's say a pop-up or 10% off, you can then have a welcome series where someone, instead of just getting one email to say, hey, thanks for joining the welcome series, or thanks for joining our email campaign, and we'll be in touch, you can then have an automatic email that goes 2 weeks later that could say, hey, follow us on social. Another email 2 weeks later that can then could say, hey, we just added 20 new products. And these can all be automated flows. And I think email is something which, especially over lockdown, people are more in front of the computers sitting at home, and the emails are getting opened an awful lot more than they were. And it's the perfect time to delve into it, especially if you already have an audience and you've already built up. One thing I'd say is that a lot of people get scared around email. They sort of compare it to social, in that they think it's all about the likes, it's all about the follows, it's all about the engagement. You could have 200 people and you could do so much better than someone with 15,000 people, because your open rate could be better and you're talking to them in a more personal way. So it's a really good thing. Klaviyo is really cool from a point of view of the flows are really good, as in the welcome series and thank you, but you can also do like after purchase flows. So we would do this a lot. So for example, with a car seat company, and they sell a certain car seat, we would then have a next step email that goes out that has videos showing you how to install the car seat, or safety tips on how to fit it correctly. And then 2 weeks later, we'll do an upsell email of, here's some add-on accessories that you may be interested in to add to your car seat. And then 3 weeks later, we've got a sale coming up. We can then also do like a anniversary purchase. So after a year after you've purchased, we can send you on a follow-up as well to say, hey, we noticed maybe it's a yearly thing or quarterly thing when they buy. But yeah, it's a very good tool. One of the other things that it does is it lets you build segments. And we would use this a lot. So a segment is, unlike a list is static. So a list is static from a point of view if you have to add people to a list. A segment is dynamic. So we could look up any person in the last 3 months who has purchased a jacket, and we could see a list of all the people that have purchased a jacket in the last 3 months, turn that into a list of, or people set up a campaign to send them an email to say, would you like a scarf to go with your jacket? And we can automatically have that sent out to all of those people. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a really, really good tool. And I think it's something which I always look at, online as multi-channel. So I never would say that like Shopify is the only thing. It's, you've got email, you've got Shopify, you've got social, you've got paid, and you've got organic, and then you've got your person to person. And I think a lot of people don't realize that there's all these channels that they can actually target. It's not that they have to go with a Facebook ad or a Google ad. They can do a person to person, where they actually just get someone to refer a friend or pass the details on to someone else. There's so many brands that I like Aesop is a really nice sort of self-care brand that does sort of like cleansers and moisturizer and hand cream and things like that. And every time you go into their store, each of their stores is designed like the architecture of the area around it. So in London, it's designed like the architecture of some of the cathedrals in London. In Singapore, it's designed like some of the more modern buildings. In Australia, it's designed like some of the old Australian buildings. And the thing is their online experience is very similar to that, and how they talk to you, how they word things, how they make it really personal. And I will always talk to people about Aesop and talk to them about this brand experience from buying online. Aesop, A-E-S-O-P. It's an Australian company. But it's their online experience is beautiful, but their in-store experience is just as good. And they're one of the companies which I think has really passed their in-store experience to online and how they've done it. So when you go online, you search by your skin type. So you're not going in and buy products, you're searching by skin type, and you're going in and it says, well, this one is good for this is good for this, for if you've got greasy skin or whatever it is. It allows you to go in and do all those different things. But it's just about trying to personalize that. An email is something where you can be personal. So the order confirmation, thanks so much for your order. We're getting your order shipped. Sarah's going to be looking after your order for you. She'll be in touch to let you know when it's being fulfilled. Even just putting in that name Sarah, or having someone's name where it looks like it's more personal, and your order is being shipped, it'll be with you soon, you will be getting an email with a confirmation and tracking number. It's that personal touch. And everyone can do that, Caroline. It's not like you can't. you can personalize all those things, and it's so important to do it. It's a go off on a tangent, but we work with Born and Bred in town, and Lindsay's brilliant. She's very quirky and comes up with really good things, and we work with her and Matthew Thompson, who owns the Best of Belfast podcast, to come up with copywriting. And they came up with things like for Mother's Day, the subject line for the email for Born and Bred, which is like a Northern Irish slangy company, we came up with "Tell your ma to get excited." And that's the subject line that we sent out to all of her followers, all of her email lists about this email for Mother's Day. For the Father's Day, we said, "I'll take your dad, my dad will take your dad in a fight." So it's very personal on the brand,
that's brilliant.
her brand.
Yes.
And it's about how you make those sort of custom things to make your brand stand out. Because that's what the big people can't do. The big companies can't do that personal approach.
Yeah. And, if people are listening and they're trying to get their head around Shopify and product descriptions and images and stuff, and then we get to this, they're like, oh man, how am I going to do this? But it's actually really easy. Like once you add the app of Klaviyo, I'm saying it right now, I wasn't saying it right at the start, Klaviyo.
Yeah, you are.
And MailChimp to Shopify. Like this might sound hard, but it's actually all the templates are there. It's so easy to navigate, and you can have a real professional, seamless kind of, setup going in no time at all with the right training. So, don't get overwhelmed. Start at the start, build yourself out. And this is something to work towards, just like in your own bricks and mortar, you work towards your goals. Definitely email marketing is huge. And like River Island are really good. Like I had loads of things in my basket on Sunday night, and I'd say one more time, if they email me and say, "Oh, here, you just forgot about them," I'm buying them. So if that's in my inbox tonight, I'm going to say, I must buy that. So, all those big guys are doing that really well. But as you say, us as the wee guys, like that is brilliant that they're using those kind of lines in their description, their, what do you call it? The email subjects, like "Tell your ma to get excited." Like you'd immediately click on that to see who the hell would send you an email like that.
Yeah, and we make it so personal. And like when like the first email that we sent from her series is like, "A little birdie told me that you've now, using the magic of the internet, that you've now signed up to our email." So it's not saying you've been subscribed. It's very this quirky thing. And then she puts at the end, like, "Don't tell my accountant, here's a 10% discount code." Like it's all about these really quirky things that can make your brand. And the thing is, if you walk into the Born and Bred store in town, that's what you feel, this quirkiness of Lindsay coming through, her quirky, the artists and all the people that are in there. It's all very unique, and it's exactly her audience. So it's just how you can do that for your audience and make it sort of stand out a bit. One of the ones I do recommend, if you are going to do the abandoned cart series, is we would recommend that if you have like a basket, we do two flows. So we'd have a flow that's under a certain price in the basket and a flow that's over. So if the flow's over, let's say £150, you then have a free delivery. If it's under £150, you don't have a free delivery, or you have a 10% off. So what you can do is you can separate those people, so you can see who's the ones that have more than 150 in the basket, and offer them a wee free delivery to see if it'll just tweak their interest to get them over the line. Whereas the ones under 150, you just send them another email saying, "Hey, you left this in your basket, you may want it." So you can do things like that, where you can separate all the different analytics on your customers and how they're going through those flows.
And it's like you say, if you're that person that's spending 1 hour a week on your website, this is never going to be what you're going to be doing. So yes, you're probably being overwhelmed thinking, "I'm never going to be able to do that." But if you treat this like a new business, you actually will find the time to get all of these systems in place. So what I want to talk about a blog. So when I talk about a blog to people, they're like, "I don't want to be a blogger," and they just do not understand the concept of a blog and how important it is for Google and for your website in general, for traffic, and for also for you to look like an expert in your field, all the things, but mainly for Google is why we write blogs. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So I think there's this sort of the stigma on a blog is like, "Oh, I have to post all the time, or I have to post loads of things, and they have to be a certain length, and I have to have loads of photos." I always sort of put it back on saying, well, it doesn't have to be a blog. It could be a lookbook. It could be a style guide. It could be a recipe log. It could be a journal on you going away on fashion trips. It could be different things where you're not actually talking about it as a blog. It could just have a different category of meaning. Some of the best blogs we have are journals, where it could be style shoots in Belfast, or it could be people focusing in on a brand. Like, let's say you stock Tommy Hilfiger and you do a deep dive of Tommy Hilfiger, about the history of Tommy Hilfiger, about some of the first items that came out from Tommy Hilfiger. And then at the end, you promote your products in Tommy Hilfiger. And those sort of blogs are really good from a point of view of you've got quality content that you've written that can be used in different things. So you don't look at a blog as only being used online. It can be used in email. It can be used on your social media. It can be turned into a video. It can be used as a brochure if you want, and pulling things together. So you always have to look at any of the assets that you use, whether it's product photography, lifestyle shots, or content that's reusable across different channels. But thinking of that, if you had a blog, let's say on one of your brands, which is Tommy Hilfiger, and it goes into a deep dive, that's really good from a point of view of people who search for Tommy Hilfiger. It's really good for you because you've got a blog that has a page that has unique content on it that isn't a product. But the main thing I'd say is, like, it's all about quality over quantity. It's not essential to have a blog, but if you want to have a blog, I recommend that you think more about the quality of it and do less posts but better quality ones. The other thing I would recommend is take your dates off. There's so many people that I see leave the date on a blog and the last update is 2019. And the minute that anyone sees that, they're going to go, oh, well, I'm not going to, they don't update the blog. And the thing is, your blog doesn't have to be timed. The reason blogs have time is because it was meant to be a log. It was a log of your life, and that's why a blog has time, has a timestamp. But your blog doesn't need to have a timestamp, because whether you post 6 times a day, once a day, or once a month, as long as you're posting good content, it doesn't matter how often that you do it. Mm-hmm. We have clients that have posted things related to different things. So it could be a deep dive of looking at wedding shots, or there could be something to do with, let's say, something that's in the news, and you could take a piece out of that and say, okay, well, I'm going to talk about that. So it could be fashion styling at something like the Golden Globes, and you want to write an article about the three items that you would improve on and how you do it, and 3 items that you think work really well from being worn by people. Those are sort of things that you can do, where you can look at sites, that way you can find out all this data, and then you can write articles around that. So yeah, there's a few different things, but it's definitely more about covering the topics that are related to your audience. It's not about trying to go wild and stressing yourself out that you have to do one a week and you have to sit in front of that computer with a white sheet and type out a blog. Don't ever think like that. It should be that the blog comes from a place of, I think this is going to add value because the customers asked me about this. Mm-hmm. So it could be, and if you don't have copy, if you don't have content, think of things. So for example, let's say, and I know I'm going on a rant here, but let's say you was coming to Mother's Day. You could have a blog about 6 items under £60 that are for Mother's Day and why you should buy them. And out of those 6 items, 3 of them could be in your store and 3 of them could be in some other store. It doesn't always have to be about just your content. It can be about linking in different things and building that out. And there's enough different events that happen in a bloody year that people can write about for at least 12 or 13 blog posts to have on their store every year, just from looking at the sort of the different days that we have around different holidays.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose for anybody listening, whenever I had my shop, the reason why I wrote blogs was for the keywords for First Holy Communion, confirmation, and I wrote the blogs around the time that those events were happening. So if people were Googling that my blog could be fed to them, they would find my website, hopefully purchase from me. So I always had a vision for why I wrote that blog, and there's no point in writing a blog, like you say, if there's no real overriding goal. But if you can make yourself look like an expert in your field by writing a blog, if you have a reason like that where you want to be like ranking in Google for those keywords. But also, as a business owner who has 50 million things to do, they're thinking, I might flip writing a blog. But there's a lot of students, just to throw this in here, that love to help on that type of thing to give themselves experience. So I had a lot of students came to me from the tech, so from North and West or South and West College, and they would have been able to write blog content for me on different topics. So don't dismiss it if you think you could be doing with that extra content on your site, and maybe look at new ways of trying to find people that can help. You could invite guest bloggers on, ask a blogger to write a piece of content for your site about a particular piece of fashion they like in your store. These are just wee tips for people on how to maybe get that content going and start to see, is it giving you any kind of rewards. So don't despair. If you're listening, just don't despair.
One example of someone who's doing it well is a company that we work with, Outside In. So they sort of do this product where it's a wear one, share one. So when you buy an item, you get a second item to give to someone who's homeless. And they do a monthly review, and it's basically just a review of the different parts of the business, from their design team and coming up with new concept ideas around products, to the sustainable side, looking at how they can help, to their people who are out in the street and are actually doing work with homeless charities. And all they do is just do a review, and that's their blog. It's not trying to reinvent. It's 6 different people talking about different things and brought into one. So it means they're not trying to make this massive piece. They just know that they can pull a bit from here, and bring it all into one. And they've got a really good article that people get bought into and read, because it's then engaging, because it's got different people being involved in different sides of the business.
I know. No, it's fascinating. Like, and if you enjoy that type of like writing content and telling a story about your business, it can have huge rewards. So I'm kind of, I don't want to overwhelm people either, because my God, that's a lot of information. But is there 3 things that people should make sure they have on their site to achieve as good results as they can? So are there 3 things that they should be thinking about their Shopify site?
Yeah, so the main thing I would think of would be social proof. So when I say social proof, what I mean is backing up why they should go with you. So it could be bringing in reviews, it could be bringing in testimonials, it could be bringing in years in business, it could be experience, it could be your brands. It's showing that that you're qualified to take this customer and be able to take the money off them to deliver on a really good service. A lot of clients will use things like Trustpilot or reviews.io. You can also pull in your Facebook feed. You can pull in Google reviews. You can pull in testimonials. So one of our clients, Bella Moon, who sell like a pregnancy pillow, we have a really nice testimonial where, because it is a purchase for the mother, but it's also a purchase for the child or the baby, we have it that the photo is like Charlie and Anna, and Charlie is in the photo as well. So the baby's part of the testimonial, because we want the mother who's thinking of buying this to look and go, oh, that's really cute that it's actually the child and the mother, because it's for both of them. So it's just coming up with different ways. But social proof is huge. The next thing would be content. So the main thing that we see is a lack of content throughout a site. So I click into a page around coats and I just see a list of products. I don't see any description saying we offer a wide range of coats that specialize in long coats, winter coats by brands like Tommy Hilfiger or Barber or similar. It's all about having that additional content throughout the site. And what I would say is that the best thing to do with content is to not try and do it all in one go. Is to take it that every week you'll do 2 or 3 new content titles for your categories. So if you have, let's say, 15 collections, you do it over the course of 5 weeks. You don't try and rush it out and get it done, because what you'll then do is write up the same thing over and over again and only change 1 or 2 words. So by coming back at it fresh and doing it over the pace of maybe 4 or 5 to 15 weeks, it doesn't really matter. You can just start building it up, and the more that it can add value. And the last thing is just having a really clear user journey. So the main thing is just sites that are overcomplicated. You should be trying to get the customer to that buying page within 2 clicks. And if you can't do that, you've got a problem. I always do the mum test, which is where I send my mum a link on WhatsApp of a website and say, Mum, can you please have a look at this? And the reason I do it is she doesn't have the best of phones. She is getting better during lockdown, and she now knows how to Zoom and how to WhatsApp video and things, but at the start she didn't. So by sending her the phone photo, the link, and asking her to find this exact product, I know she's going to either look through it in the navigation or she's going to search. She's then going to find the product. She's then going to have to figure it out, and then she has to send me the link back of that product. So this is the perfect test, because I can see what the phone first is, how she experiences on the phone. She can tell me. I can see how she's actually going to search for it. So is she going to use the navigation, or is she going to go into the search bar and look up the product from search, or is she going to click it from the home page? And then I can see what she does when she gets to the product page. So definitely get people to test it. The main thing that we found is that people don't have a clear way of getting through. And by doing that, you're stopping that customer. And that's why people's bounce rate will go up, is when someone gets to the page and goes and stops and doesn't know what to do. You need to guide the user the whole way through the process.
Okay, awesome. That's brilliant. People can keep those things in mind, regardless of whether they built their site themselves or they're working with a developer, that they know those are the things they should be looking at. So just to wrap it all up, any words of wisdom for the people who are crying right now? Are there, like, believe it or not, I know you work very much with people who are embracing the online, obviously, because they've came to you and they need a website, but I still speak with people who are, I think it's fear that they haven't embraced a website yet, but obviously with the year that has just went by, they now know this is a necessity. Have you any words of wisdom for those people who are still trying to decide whether investing in a website is worthwhile?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things there. So the phrase I would use is just take the leap. Okay. Now, when I say take the leap, I don't mean that you need to go full on out, full e-commerce. And what I mean by full e-commerce is buy online. We have clients that we've built stores for where it's just a shopping front. So it's literally just a shopping front where they can see, someone can click into chairs and see a list of 7 or 8 chairs that they offer. And it's more the case that they're online, they're getting found, they have something they can link through from their social media, from their accounts, from their email, but it's just that starting point. We have other clients that'll do click and collect only. So it could be that the whole store is online. They don't want to sell anything, but they want people to be able to either book an appointment or click and collect. So it's taking that leap and jumping into it. But I think main thing I'd say is, if you are going to take that leap, is don't do it half-heartedly. You have to go full into it. And I don't mean full into it by setting aside a £3,000 budget to do ad spend, or by going all out on spending huge money on a photographer. It's more that you need to do it to the better quality. So you need to think about that navigation, how you set that up. You need to think about the products and what the products look like on a page, and not look at your site and go, oh, I don't think I put enough effort in. Because if you put the effort in, you will get the return. You won't get the return overnight, because no one's going to get the return overnight, but you'll get the return in the long run, because you'll start being more proud of showing off the site, of talking about it, and you'll be able to see how people interact with it and how they can use it. So it's just about taking that first leap. I think also with the current situation, a lot of businesses have came to us who have sort of said, look, we want to take that leap. We were going to, but we now realize we need to. And the thing is, even if this all goes back to normal, it's another sales channel, and if you're not there, you're not in the running for it, and you're not in there competing, you're always not going to have that as a channel. And the thing is, the web's not going anywhere. It's just getting stronger, and social media is not going anywhere. It's just getting stronger. So I think every company should be there. What I would say is that not every company needs to physically sell. They could just be doing a click and collect, as in where someone comes in store, or they could just be doing a brochure where they're showing off a range of products and then people inquire. So it's just about deciding what's right for your business based on the time you have and what you can offer.
Yeah. And, it's a hard time for business owners. And I know we talked about retail, and that's because that's my kind of experience. But like all business owners, this is just, it's unthinkable that they've been plunged in so quickly into something that they thought they had time to navigate through, and you really don't. So I guess, learn all you can, listen to people like you, reach out, ask for a quote, find out what you're entitled to, and get the ball rolling, so that when the busy times come around again, I know it'll be Christmas in no time, really, whenever you think about it, that you want to be ready, you want to be there, you want to be as good online as you are in your shop front. So thank you so much, Mark. I always, sorry, do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, all I was going to say was I think people underestimate the power of their own business.
Yeah.
So I think people underestimate that their local customers who maybe can't come in store at the moment, if they could buy online, they would, because they'll support the local. People want to support local. People don't want to be going to bigger companies and giving them the money that's not going to be helping a family or help someone go into college. They want to support local. I think you have to give them the opportunity to do that. And I think if you can get a store set up, whichever way it is, whether it's using Shopify or another platform, it's just about having your presence online is so important nowadays for how you get found and how people can interact with you in a different way.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Thank you so much for talking to me from Amster flipping
You're very
Tam.
welcome.
I'm so jealous. Is the coffee good? Is the wine good?
Yeah, coffee's good, wine's good, and the Uber Eats is very good. You can order a 5-course tasting menu if you want delivered to the house. So
shut up! Oh my God, we need to get that over here. It's just so good to see you so happy over there, and it's great to have you still so accessible. Like I was scared when I heard you were going, but I can just say we can just get in touch with you just as easy. And
yeah, of course.
If business owners are listening, Mark, and they want to reach out, how can they reach out to you for whatever prices?
Yeah, if they just go to choruscommerce.com, they can find out a bit more information. We've got a sort of an online form that we can get people to fill in, like a mini questionnaire, and then they fill that in. We then arrange a starting call and we can talk to them. What I would say is I would like businesses to reach out just to chat. They don't have to go with us. I just want to be able to sort of guide someone and tell them this is the best way they could do it. It's not always about trying to do this whole e-commerce approach at step one. Step one could be just talking to them about how to arrange that they can, in 3 months' time, plan that they're going to go into e-commerce. I don't think that any business should just rush into it because of COVID and be like, oh crap, we need to be online. It needs to be that we think about this. The main thing that people don't think about is the operational side, which we don't do. So it's how you do your packing system in store. It's how you choose your delivery providers, whether you're going to use DHL, DPD, Royal Mail, On Post, whatever it is. It's making sure you have that in place, because we can build your site. You can have a site set up, but if you don't have your operational side in place and you don't know how you're going to lay out that order and pack that order and ship it out, you're going to let down the customer, if that makes sense. So there's a lot to think about there that we haven't discussed as well. So it's a daunting thing, but I think every business should be taking the leap, especially with the way things are going.
Yeah, so I guess Mark can speak to you about that if that's the kind of situation you're in at the moment. But it's Chorus Commerce, so that's CHORUS commerce.com, and he's also on social. I'm trying to get him better on social from we first met, but he does have Glazed Digital. It's Chorus Commerce on Instagram.
Yeah. We've got Chorus Commerce, Glazed Digital, and then my personal Instagram is Kelso.
Kelso. So you can I've written show notes, so all of these links and all the details will be in the show notes for the podcast. So thanks a million, Mark. I know that there's going to be so many heads spinning with ideas, and rightly so. This is a great platform for businesses that can change things around for them, and with people like you helping, it can only mean good things. So I hope to see you really soon when you let me come and stay in your beautiful apartment in Amsterdam very soon.
I know that sometimes that can be a lot to process, so we have made some show notes for you. If you head over to digmama.com and go to the Digg podcast page, you will see all of the information there. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our podcast. That will mean you'll be kept up to date with all our new guests. And also, if you want to follow all the drama behind the scenes, you can do that on the social media channels Digg Mama. So yeah, have a happy week, guys, a safe one. Strange times, but I'm just taking it one day at a time, and I will see you all on the next podcast.